to my channel and welcome to today's video all about connecting to your feminine energy this autumn. For anyone that is new here, my name is Amara and I am a yoga teacher. I work in the space of spirituality and my main aim with everything that I share is to really help you find your way back home to your soul and really connect back to that deeply feminine essence. I have a real passion about working with women and helping them rediscover this journey back home to their soul. So that is why I'm here. That's why I share everything I do, and I share all of this even more deeply on my virtual soul studio called the Soul Shadow, which is always linked below. Now, before I begin, I just feel like I need to preface this because it has been a really long time since I shared a video like this, and I've chatted about feminine energy in this way, and that I've really been sharing these more, I guess, educational videos on here. And I'd say I haven't really shared anything like this probably for most of this year. I've been moving through a lot of, how to describe it, healing, processing, also moving through like a lot of unlearning and relearning, and also taking so much time to root into my own feminine essence and my own feminine energy, and really soul searching in that sense. That's actually where I've been, and you may for that reason notice that this video might carry a slightly different energy to any of my feminine energy ones you've watched in the past. You might not notice that it does, but we're coming from a really rooted, grounded feminine space within this video, and I really hope that that connects with you today. So with that being said, it is a very rainy, cozy autumnal day, and we are going to dive into all of the ways in which you can connect to your feminine energy even more deeply during the season of autumn. Now, before we begin, if you are new to this idea of feminine energy, I'm going to give you a really short and sweet sort of description and understanding of what feminine energy is. If you know this, feel free to skip forward. There will be time stamps below. Now, for those of you who may be new to this concept of feminine energy, there is so much to learn and discover. But what I will say is feminine energy is something that we all have within us, whether or not we are men or women. We all have a balance of what's called masculine and feminine energy. This is also referred at times to yin and yang. This masculine and feminine energy works with the law of polarities. So whereas the masculine is fast, the feminine is slow, or the masculine is hard, the feminine is soft. Whilst the masculine is the carer, the survivor, the provider, the feminine is the receiver, the creator. And this is not necessarily in terms of roles, it's in terms of energy, to be particular. And when we begin to understand these polarities, we can begin to see that the world in which we live is an incredibly masculine and patriarchal society. We do know this is a known fact. And with us all as women growing up within this very masculine world, as we begin to navigate our lives as adults through this world, we often begin to feel the fractures of being so disconnected to our deep feminine essence. So this concept that our deep feminine essence wants us to slow down, to connect, to be present, to be really grounded and earthed, whereas we are told our success is to be moving more quickly, to be living the high life, to be going as fast, improving as much, and doing everything that we can. And what this actually creates is, first of all, it doesn't honor the cyclical nature of women. We as women go by a 28-day cycle, which we know, the sun menstruation cycle, whereas men actually only have a 24-hour cycle known as the circadian rhythm. We have the circadian rhythm and the infradian rhythm. So with this really patriarchal, masculine society, environment that we all live in and grow up in, it really creates this imbalance within us, and it can lead to a lot of feelings as we begin to get older, and we've been doing this for a little while, of feeling burnt out, of feeling completely and utterly disconnected to ourselves. It can have us feeling lost, it can have us feeling disempowered. There's so many feelings that come when our connection to our feminine essence becomes fractured due to the world that we live in. And that is really where we come onto this idea of feminine energy, because the more that you begin to reconnect with your deep feminine essence, the one that asks you to slow down, to be present, to connect, to dive deep, to move with those flows and ups and downs of life, to surrender versus then fight. This is when we begin to really create deep healing, not just within ourselves, but the ripple effects really perforate out into the societies we live in and into the communities. But with that being said, that is your really quick little rundown on, I guess, the feminine energy dilemma. And that is why I've decided to come on here and share some tips for you to connect to your feminine energy this autumn. So the season of autumn is honestly one of my favorite, actually it is my favorite season. I feel like it has a season that really takes us from a very yang, masculine energy of summer, which is very fiery, we're doing a lot, we have longer days, there's a lot of energy within our spheres, within our sort of surroundings. We are constantly being fueled to do more and more and more. Naturally, as we get towards sort of late summertime, we begin to see within nature that there are endings coming. There's a feeling of, if it's not quite burnout, it's a feeling of time to bring everything to a close. You often see fields begin to become a little bit dry and a little bit golden because that sort of abundance has begun to come to a close to make space for autumn, which is a time of shedding. It's a time of transformation. It's a time of letting go. And it's also a real time of rejuvenation as well. It's bringing all of the energy that was very outward, more inward, more feminine, more slow, more soft, more connected, if you will. And that is really what the season of autumn symbolizes for us. And that is why I think so many of us as women feel so at home in the season of autumn. And that is why I thought this video would be a great idea. So with that being said, my first big tip for how to connect to your feminine energy a little bit more deeply within the season of autumn is to connect to nature. What we really need to understand as women is that we are not, nature is not outside of us, we are nature embodied. We share the cycles of the moon, of the tides, of the lunar cycles, of everything within us. Our menstruation cycle mimics the cycle of the moon and mimics the seasons that we move through. We are the earth embodied. When we're disconnected from the earth, we're disconnected from ourselves. We can't find our true essence when we're not connected to the truest essence that fuels it. And women carry this connection so deeply. If we think of Mother Earth, it's a very feminine, almost creatrix energy of she births life, she births abundance. And when we are disconnected, without a doubt, we feel disconnected from ourselves. We aren't able to connect to that deeply feminine essence that we all have. So connecting to nature is a really easy and fantastic way to tap back into our feminine essence. And the way in which this happens is you can go out on a nature walk and observe all of the colors and just connect to the real energy of Mother Nature. What can be really good is taking your shoes off and sinking your bare feet into the grass. This is called earthing, and it is really fantastic for creating regulation within the body and the nervous system. There's a lot of studies that show the ions coming from bare feet on the earth, moving into the body and creating regulation in that way. So that's one really good way. These are also fantastic for calming the nervous system, slowing down, connecting back to yourself. This is such a good way. It's also low impact movement, which is so good for you. We're going to come back to that later. But that is one of the really fantastic ways you can connect to your feminine energy more deeply, by connecting to nature. Another way to connect to nature is to eat seasonally. What is so beautiful about Mother Earth is that she provides what our body needs when it needs it. So in the times where, for example, in the winter, when we're quite often deficient of vitamin C and D, that is when clementines and oranges and tangerines and mandarins are in season. And this is because Mother Nature provides us with exactly the dose and the antidote to what it is that we need. This also happens within the autumn. You see a lot of slightly more comforting, warming foods. So squashes, pumpkin, grains, corn, all of these Really hearty, comforting meals are fantastic for connecting to nature and connecting to your feminine, because as it gets colder, one of the big things that is really important for our feminine essence, our feminine wellness, is keeping the body warm. Within Chinese traditional medicine, it's often said if the feet are cold, if a woman's body is cold, her ovaries are also cold, her insides, her womb is cold. And the feminine body cannot be soft and receptive and at ease when it is cold. So these warming, nourishing foods are so fantastic for giving your body what it needs to feel in this really nourished. Listen to that word, nourished. We're not starving ourselves. We are nourishing our body with whole, organic, really high quality produce and food. And that's when we're going to feel most at ease within our feminine essence. The last one in terms of nature, I'm just checking my list down here, is bringing nature indoors. So I don't mean bringing in like creatures. I mean bringing in elements of nature into your home. Bring elements of autumn into your home. By bringing these elements of nature into our home, so for example with decor, such as I have a few oak leaves up here to adorn my mantelpiece. You may bring in pumpkins or acorns. In the UK we have things called conkers, which I know people like to bring in. Bringing nature indoors is so good for your nervous system. It connects you back to, again, the feminine. You can take this a little bit deeper. We all know the smells of autumn: cinnamon, nutmeg, aniseed, all of these really beautiful spices. Cooking with them, but also bringing them in through the scents and smells, can be so lovely and like almost sensual feminine, connecting to that deeply sensual part of the feminine that wants to experience everything through all of her senses, which is such a beautiful thing. So those are some suggestions for how you can connect to your feminine energy this autumn through nature. Moving on to the next way. Way you can begin to connect to your feminine energy this autumn, we kind of already touched on, and this is following the cycle of nature. The energy, the energetics of autumn, we are on this trajectory down from the high, very fiery, very outward, very masculine energy of summer. We're on this trajectory downwards. We're beginning to curl inwards. We're beginning to come into ourselves. And if you allow yourself to follow this rather than fight it, rather than resist the days becoming shorter, resisting the darkness, resisting the colder days, if you surrender to it and embrace it, this is actually when you're going to feel, first of all, most in sync to Mother Nature, and therefore most in sync to yourself. There's not this constant conflict and battle. So the more you slow down, the more you almost give yourself a cuddle, warm everything up, slow the days down where possible, take your time, be present, enjoy the fact that the energy is coming inwards and there's more time to be with loved ones in our homes. There's more time to spend cooking and creating and just being within our own environment, within our own energy. Enjoy this and embrace it. Slow everything down, slow your movement practices down, follow the energy of the season, and this is such a fantastic way to avoid feelings of burnout. And I would also go as far to say that if you have kind of a tumultuous relationship with things getting darker, the day is getting shorter, explore your relationship with the darkness. Why does the darkness feel not so nice or not so fun? What is it? And could you actually begin to create almost equilibrium and surrender and softness in those spaces too? A great way to also do this, if you are wanting to slow down your movement practices, is to practice Yin Yoga. Yin Yoga, I know I'm a yoga teacher, but Yin Yoga is without a doubt one of the most fantastic ways, especially for beginners, to connect to your feminine energy. This is honestly one of the best things you can do because it's rooted in the principles of the feminine. It is teaching you how to get more comfortable in your deep feminine essence. It teaches you how to slow down. It teaches you how to sit with discomfort rather than fix or fight or move away from it. It teaches you how to embrace softness, but more than anything, it teaches you how much progress can be made when you choose to be still, surrender, and soften. And that is a skill that quite often you need to feel before you can understand. So when you feel that taking place in your body through the slow, soft poses, you may begin to become brave enough to watch that play out in other areas of your life and wonder where you can slow down and see that actually you can receive so much more when you're in a state of surrendered softness and reception and ease and nourishment versus constantly reaching and trying to adjust and fix and fit yourself into things. And that is a really fantastic lesson that Yin Yoga can bring. So I cannot recommend enough. I do actually have a really lovely Yin Yoga for feminine energy, which I will link below for you guys there. Now, moving into the slightly more fun and spiritual side of things, which I always love talking about. Another thing you may choose to do during this autumn season to connect with your feminine energy is to begin to explore the dark feminine. And this is something that I'd say I've had a really whole journey with over the past year. It's been one of my favorite journeys yet. I'm brave enough to say that right now, and I'm still very much in it. But begin to explore the dark feminine during autumn. Autumn is the season of the witch. It's the season of everything sort of going on in that spirit realm and beginning to open up through your intuition, beginning to connect through actually the shadow and the depth. And for so many of us women, we are really very afraid of the emotions such as anger, the emotions such as frustration, emotions like fear, frustration, anger, lust is also in there with the dark feminine. A lot of us are really, really fearful and resistant to this side of the feminine. And if you want true, deep feminine embodiment, you've got to get to know the dark feminine. You've got to literally pull up a seat and allow her to sit at the table and not only get to know her, but begin to love her. Explore your shadow, explore your fears, explore why it is maybe you feel a little bit resistant to the darker side of the feminine energy, and really embrace that. Now, if you're wondering what the darker side of feminine energy is, I have mentioned it, but deep feminine rage, which is actually so valid. If you're someone who's like, I don't get angry, I don't like being angry, I try not to be angry, deep feminine rage is actually really, really important, and it is really has a lot. We need to hold space for it. If we're not feeling that, we are going to be blocked in our feminine energy, whether we like it or not. So holding space for that rage, holding space for really being able to communicate what we need. Again, that side of the sensuality within femininity that a lot of us feel very restricted around and very fearful around and very uncomfortable exploring as well. So opening yourself up to some ideas on that could be really fantastic thing to explore within the season of autumn, which is all about, especially as we come up to like Scorpio season and Samhain, which is Halloween. It's a really beautiful time to kind of dive into the depths of our psyche and who we are and begin to almost peel back the layers of what makes us us, and know that the darker side of our feminine also deserves so much love and so much respect, and she's great. She is. She's really, really great. So with that being said, the next thing you can do to connect to your feminine energy a little bit deeper, still on that topic of more spiritual things, you might choose to explore some more of your intuitive practices. As women, we are naturally more intuitive than men. This is one of the gifts we have within our feminine energy. And the more connected you become with your feminine energy, the deeper your intuition becomes. So when you begin to start to create space to connect to your intuition, it almost creates like a gateway to stepping into your feminine a little deeper. A really fun and nice way to connect to your intuition can be through the use of oracle cards. So I have an entire video on what oracle cards are and how to use them and how they vary from tarot cards, but oracle cards are a really, really beautiful way to connect to your guides, to connect to the universe, to connect to your higher self, spirit, whatever it is you believe in, ancestors, to connect to them and have messages and to just get guidance on your next steps. You can pull a card each day and ask for some guidance that day. If you are having to make a big decision, you can pull out your oracle cards and use them to help you make a decision. Oracle cards are really beginner friendly, so I always recommend, if you're wanting to tiptoe into them, I will link an entire list of my favorites on Amazon that you might connect with if that is something you want to explore. Now that I have mentioned that the feminine is deeply intuitive, there is a certain witchy side of this feminine that loves to come out in the season of autumn. You may feel really called to explore more ritual practice within this season, and I really recommend that if you're wanting to do a ritual or a little ceremony for yourself, or just have a moment to connect to your feminine energy, to do this through a letting go and surrendering ritual. I do have one of these on my soul studio, which I will link below. We did it for the autumn equinox, but a letting go ritual is so potent for the season of autumn. Autumn is all about letting go. You literally watch in nature as the leaves are just falling from the trees. And when you think about leaves falling from a tree, there's no resistance. They flutter down, there's a breeze, and you just see how beautiful the leaves flutter down onto the ground. And that is something that we really want to almost emulate within ourselves. Naturally, you will often feel like there are things you're ready to let go of in the autumn, and having a little ritual for yourself can be a really beautiful way to let go of them with as little resistance as possible. So you may just set yourself up with a candle, you may write things down that you want to release and burn it. You may also want to be guided in this, which is why I will link a really lovely ritual for this below. Now, with that being said, that is all I have for you today. Those are all of my tips for how to connect to your feminine energy a little bit more deeply this autumn. If you did enjoy it, please do let me know. Comment below, send me a message, come over and explore my virtual soul studio. I also do have a email list which you can sign up for on the bottom of my website, and I'm also here all the time. I do weekly vlogs. They come out usually every Sunday, hopefully, if as long as everything goes to plan, and then I usually will post some classes as well here, as well as other bits and bobs. So if you enjoyed this, please do subscribe and stay. But otherwise, I'm sending you so much love. I'm really hoping you enjoy the season ahead and find deep, authentic, undivided connection to your divine feminine energy and essence, and I hope you enjoy the process of doing that. As I said, that's all from me. I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you in my next video.